Good evening. My name's Harrison Earl. I'm a 19-year-old visual artist from Western Sydney, and I don't think I would call all of my work, or most of it even, street art, because it's not so much of an art form as it is a movement, but my practice has a lot of roots in street art subculture. I grew up with comic books, graffiti, and cartoons, and that's all I cared about, so I think that shows in my work. So in saying that, I feel like it's quite important that I address what I think street art actually means. Like I said, it's more of a movement than an art form. It's essentially a branch of graffiti, except its purpose is more so to decorate or beautify the space or give voice to somebody in the public eye. So really the term couldn't be more literal. It's just signified by art in the street. It's not necessarily any technique. This is a quote from quite a prolific graffiti artist from the US named Revoke, and I think he really captures quite an unfortunate truth about the street art and graffiti community. And I think he's right, actually. It's an exploited scene, and people have got a sniff of it because it's a modern youth trend now, and it's kind of cool to be a street kid. But yeah, amongst that, there's obviously the real people prevail, and you can see that here in the mural by Spanish street artist Aries. I feel like his work completely encapsulates what street art means, especially to myself, and that is that it's visually and aesthetically pleasing and interesting, and it makes a grey wall look much better, and that's all I've ever wanted to do, is make this concrete jungle that we live in a little bit better. So here's some of my work. This is the mural I collaborated on with Bibbs, Roach, Thomas Jackson and Beastman back in February of last year as part of City Fest in Maryland. To date, it's the largest wall I've had the pleasure of painting, and it was an absolute honour for me to be able to paint with some of Sydney's most notable street artists. This is my contribution to another mural from 2012, depicting rapper MF Doom. I painted it here on the Cassula tanks, actually. And speaking of which, from a street artist perspective, I feel like their paintings are absolutely crucial to keeping the street art subculture alive in the West. You know, it's a dying thing, and for these tanks to stay here, it presents a platform for young painters who want to get out there and put their work out. I hand painted this mural at ICE in Parramatta, Information and Cultural Exchange, as part of Hip Hop Projections last year at the end. I actually had a lot of fun with this piece because not often I get to hand paint a mural, it's usually with aerosol. And that takes a hell of a lot longer, but as you can see, the results are a lot more rewarding, and there's a lot more room for detail, and I'm a stickler for detail, so yeah. This is another mural that I actually did quite recently on the tanks. I collaborated with some friends of mine who are more graffiti artists than street artists, and the definition is obviously just that they mostly like typography and letters. I like painting with graffiti artists as not just street artists, because essentially we're part of the same world, and you know, to the inner 14-year-old inside me who used to spend like endless hours looking at graffiti pieces on the internet, it's great to be able to put something out there like this. So Sloth Society is an arts collective that I formed with some close friends and collaborators of mine at the beginning of last year. Since then we've been working tirelessly together on various projects and jobs, essentially just trying to do something productive with our time. And we're currently working on our first exhibition together alone for the end of the year, so that's pretty exciting. This is a mural I recently painted at Camperdown Park with the rest of the guys at Sloth Society, using aerosol again. I think that the attraction for me with spray painting is the fact that at no point do I ever actually touch the surface that I'm painting with my medium. And that kind of blows my mind until you stand back and look at your results and remember exactly why it is that you do this in the first place. Last year, Sloth Society and I were commissioned by Keats Ridge Arts and Music Festival to, amongst other things, create tiki poles to be displayed as part of the festival. I had such a good time working on this because it's so different to what I would normally do, and obviously it's an incredibly interesting project and it was for a great cause. You know, an arts festival doesn't come around that often. Yeah, getting to some of my more finer works. This is titled Saligia and is a depiction of the Seven Deadly Sins. The depictions are inspired by excerpts from Shakespearean plays addressing the sins. I actually spent the entire year that I was in Year 12 painting this and not doing much else. It was my major work, or at least I submitted it to that, and it exhibited on various stops of the Art Express tour last year, which is awesome. This work is titled There is a Light That Never Goes Out, an ink and pencil on tea stained paper. I was commissioned by a friend to create a Smith-inspired illustration as a present for his girlfriend, and she was stoked, so that's a picture. This is titled Ascension, also ink and pencil on tea stained paper. I actually finished this quite recently and it was commissioned for a friend as a tattoo design, so hopefully we can see it on his body soon. This is another ink and pencil on tea stained paper. It's titled Drunk. I spent a fair bit of time working on this one actually, and it's a favourite of mine and has a lot of sentimental value, so I think that showed through with the amount of detail that I ended up putting into it. Yeah, this is another ink and pencil on tea stained paper. I collaborated on this with one of the other members of Slot Society who goes under the pseudonym of Yes. And it's a tribute to the alternative rock band Fishbone from the 80s and 90s, and it's titled Psychologically Overcast. It's actually a really big drawing in person, and it took a fair bit of labour, a few months actually, so we're quite proud of it and can't wait to get it off our hands. Yeah, this next work is from last year also, acrylic and resin on skateboard. I painted it for a charity auction exhibition at Global Gallery in Paddington. The work is titled Broda and is a depiction of my young brother. And this is a self-portrait that I painted at the end of 2011 when I finished Saligia, titled The Doldrums. I was in quite a weird place leaving high school and stuff mentally, and this is just, I guess, what came out of that. And on that note, creating is cathartic above all other things for me, and I'm sure many other people would probably agree. It's kind of like a documentation of my experience of whatever is going on, you know. So yeah. This illustration is another one of my more recent works and is part of a project I'm currently working on titled Godless. It's a collection of illustrations and related poems I hope to release this year in the form of a book or a zine. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. And yeah, so if you are on any of the following networking sites, feel free to hit it up.